Good evening, friends. Welcome to another episode of Mad Realm's Vote to Kick. This is episode 4. We're discussing retconning today. With me is my guest, Anthony Ragucci, Fenris.
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. Finger guns. Nice. Good intro. Dig it.
Yeah.
So, first, before we get started, talk about our results from last week's episode about time gating, and the graph over there is a little misleading. That is reversed on colors, a little bit of a technical difficulty there. The red is actually keep, and the blue is kick. That was a 38 response pie chart with 63.2% of people voting to kick time gating from gaming, which I'm
Makes
not...
sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% surprised by it because, I mean, I argued keep. That's...
Was that hard for you?
No, actually, because I'm a developer, so I understand the developer side of things.
Yeah, the other side of it.
But it's not something I find surprising, since most of the audience is gamers as opposed to developers, and even then, like, if you were to somehow get this poll out to the greater community at large, there's always going to be more developers or more gamers than developers, and I want to do it now. If I can do it, let me do it. So that's sensible. But I'm going to go ahead and delete all responses. And actually, I got to unlock that. And then we're going to go ahead and reset our form here. It did not. You son of a bitch. It was supposed
There you go.
It was supposed.
Blank.
No, that's just because I scrolled down.
Oh my God! I get what you meant by the
you.
screen capture.
It's a window capture.
It is. I love this like jury rigged thing going on here.
I don't know how to do it as like a widget or something, so we just kind of have to.
Yeah, it's probably pretty technical. I really like it.
We're gonna go to send, and this week we are talking about retconning, and I will be arguing kick. I believe we agreed with that.
I will be keep.
Me and Deo, as the producers of the shows, have decided to kind of switch things up a little bit. So, first off, and Anthony here pulled up a definition that we're going to work off of here, is that a retcon, which applies to a film, TV series, or other fictional work, is a piece of new information that imposes a different interpretation on previously described events, typically used to facilitate a dramatic plot shift or account for an inconsistency. So,
I think it's a solid definition.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's
definitely, for a quick Google search. It's good.
And I have to say, it's definitely something that I think we were having this conversation beforehand, that you don't really have a solid answer for what a retcon is until you take the time to really think about it.
Yeah, like I was saying about Thanos, like earlier, like I was talking about retconning to my friends, and I think I said the word, and my friend was like, "What is that?" But he definitely knew what it was, but he didn't know the word, and I was like, I don't even know how to like define it. So I just gave him an example, and he understood. But it was like, why don't I look up a definition, see what like the technical, or the technical statement for it would be, and quick Google search gives you a pretty good one. And I'm curious about where the word even came from, like who like coined it, because it's probably like a word that was coined by somebody.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of when it started. That's not something I'm 100% familiar.
So it is short for retroactive continuity.
Okay.
And it came to light in the 80s. From a quick Google search.
That is 100% not the right color, and I'm going to have to talk to Deo about that. But kick is blue and keep is red now. I guess I reversed the continuity.
Retcon.
I retconned.
Right here live.
A retcon on vote to kick. Good job, Jim. So, generally speaking, we yield to the guest in cases like this. So, would you like to launch with your initial argument here?
Sure. I'll start it off. So I feel like retconning is something that's necessary in mediums where you have sequels, trilogies, sagas, whatever. Anything that there's more than one, because retcons only happen in sequels, trilogies, anything that is more than one. You can't retcon something in the first movie because nothing's been established. So we're changing already established material. So pretty much, yeah. If somebody, say something doesn't work in the first movie, first game, first comic book, first TV show, first season of the show, and they want to change it up. It wasn't good. They thought they could do better. Hey, in the second season, we're going to write something in that is going to totally deny that event, a death that happened. Deaths are really commonly retconned especially in comic books. It's things where it's not necessarily realistic, where you can just bring characters back. That happens in comic books all the time.
You're not really a permanent character until you've died at least once.
Yeah, and brought back, and then you die again, and you're brought back for some stupid reason. But yeah, so that's and if writers were just, or writers, whoever you are, if you were just locked into a decision and you literally couldn't reverse it, I feel like we probably wouldn't have some of the better writing down the line. Because, people learn from their mistakes, their past work, and they want to improve on it. So there should be a way that people can improve on their work or their TV show, or even new people coming in saying, hey, this storyline didn't work out. Even though I didn't write it, I think we can improve upon it by doing this, kind of reversing what happened here and making something else canon.
Okay, that's fair. Is that your?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stick with that.
Okay, so a lot of what you've gone over it's sensible. Like, people learn from stories. The issue I have with retcons are specifically with stories that are running past when they should have just been finished and wrapped up.
Yeah.
One of my larger examples that I've experienced was World of Warcraft, where one of the bigger problems is after Cataclysm. So, Burning Crusade wrapped up Illidan.
Yes.
Wrath of the Lich King wrapped up Arthas. Cataclysm wrapped up Deathwing. At that point, they basically had to start inventing new things for the players to fight, but no, these were always a problem. This was always a thing.
It was always there. Yeah, you just didn't know about it.
Yeah, I mean, even in a longer term sense, the old gods in Warcraft lore are a retcon of a problem, because they weren't really a thing that were written about in Warcraft 3. I don't even think they were really a thing written about in Warcraft 2. But we were told that a lot of the previous issues were because of the old gods. And that's, meme status at this point. I mean, in Guild Wars 2, we say because dragon magic. In World of Warcraft, people say because old gods.
Old gods, yeah.
And it's just kind of a hand-wavy thing to do. Now, I am differentiating at this point, as I'm going to skip to comics because DC and Marvel love their multiverses.
Yeah.
Multiverses I don't consider retcons, because take, for example, the Superman comic Red Sun. That is, if the planet had been spun 50% around and Superman had landed in Russia, I believe, was the primary caveat.
In the Soviet Union, yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, it's not a change to the story, it's a let's change the start of the story. Then there's the Batman. One of my personal favorite twists on Batman's story is when Bruce is shot as a child, and then his father becomes Batman, and his mother becomes the Joker.
Yeah, so that's Flashpoint Paradox, and even going to Red Sun, I wouldn't even call that like a retcon. That's definitely like an interpretation. Exactly. But Flashpoint kind of delves into retconning in a way, especially with Rebirth. I don't know if you know anything about DC's new line of comics. So New 52 was the last continuity arcs for everyone. They were all in the New 52, and now they ended the New 52 and they started Rebirth maybe like a year and a half ago. And it all starts with Wally West like running through time. He's like going in and out of like different periods in comics, like the Silver Age, the Golden Age, New 52, and like all these events are happening to him at once. And he's slowly being ripped out of time. And all this stuff is canon. Like all those continuities, all those ages are like canon in the DC multiverse, but they all rewrite each other.
Right.
So it is kind of confusing. And the New 52 is like literally I kind of have to get into spoilers to make it make sense, but like you find out that Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen is rewriting the multiverse. Like he rewrites, New 52 is gone.
I forgot Watchmen was a DC property.
They retconned him into the universe. Watchmen was very much its own thing. It's written by DC, but has nothing to do with Batman.
Now it's not.
And now it's not. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I feel like that's kind of one of the things that you get in a lot of sci-fi and fantasy is that retcon is basically built into it, where it's like there's an out.
Yeah.
Because it's like you've got super powerful beings that can rewrite the very fabric of existence in order to facilitate your writers having something else.
And that's easier, but like, you know, not all TV shows have that kind of aren't that fantastical to the point where they have characters that can literally just do anything they want.
Right. Well, that's because it's
like Dr. Manhattan.
It's kind of boring to watch those people as main characters because they don't do anything. That's honestly one of the problems I find with Superman a lot of the time is that when it focuses solely on him, it's kind of boring because he's a perfect character.
Yeah, that's why he's hard to write for too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, when I talk about retconning and I talk about stories going past their expiration date, basically, I feel like it's okay for a story to end.
100%.
So, this is going to jump kind of to another medium is anime. My first anime that I ever really watched was on Cartoon Network on Toonami between DBZ and Sailor Moon.
Okay, yeah,
so
that makes sense.
So, for those two shows, how long did DBZ run?
It's still running.
Well, no, that's Dragon Ball Super. I'm talking about actual Dragon Ball Z. You know, the Namek arc, Frieza, Cell Saga, all that stuff.
What was it like?
How long was that 5-minute battle before Namek exploded?
7 episodes.
It was longer. It felt like 2 weeks, but it's one of those things where like I went from that and then I started watching anime that ended in 20 to 30 episodes and I was like, wait, no, that can't be it. And it's just like, wait, no, it told the story and it finished. You don't need to insert a bigger bad. You don't have like I think that was one of my problems when I like my first anime was really like magical girl show and shonen battle anime because they always have to escalate. Yeah,
the guy gets bigger and badder and bolder, and he's got some one-ups him somehow. You know,
exactly.
Like,
so
yeah,
that's
DBZ.
It's one of those things where it's like, how could someone more powerful have existed and not been heard of until now? So it's one of those things where I feel like that's kind of a retcon, but not something that it impacts the past by not existing in the past. Like stuff like Cell and the androids, and then we find out time travel exists. Well, if time travel exists, why did the big bad not go back in time and be the big bad for longer and kill the people who could stop him? So, like, anytime you introduce time travel, it's one of those things where it's like, now you just made it, like, why does the villain not have this?
Kingdom Hearts, I
have never actually finished a Kingdom Hearts game, so bear with me on this.
No, yeah, I know. So Dream Drop Distance essentially is right before Kingdom Hearts 3. It was a 3DS game. It's on PS4 now, but that game introduces time travel, and the big bad of the series, Master Xehanort, picks all the villains from each game out. Well, 2 of them. He picks them out of their timelines and puts them into the future. So, like, negating their death. 2 of them. So the villains from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are pulled out of their timelines and plopped into this one, and now they're back.
Oy. See, so that's my issue, is that doing, like, I don't want retconning because I want narrative groups to design their story from start to finish. I don't mean you have to have everything planned out. You don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the very least, have the major story beats laid out so that you don't have to do shit like that.
And it's tough for a series to do that, you know, that started in 2002 and now it's 2018 and we still don't have the third one. You know, like I read somewhere that Tetsuya Nomura, the person who made the game, had a lot of that planned out. But Dream Drop Distance is definitely one of those games where it's like, okay, clearly, like, now, I see, and I don't think that's necessarily bad, and maybe that's coming from a biased opinion because I'm a fan of the series. But I kind of think that's like, oh, like, okay, like these guys, these villains are like kind of a big deal in the lore. There's like a lot going on with them that is revealed after they die, usually. Like in Kingdom Hearts 2, you learn a lot about Ansem. He's the villain from the first game. In the second one, you learn more about who he was before he became evil. That's not necessarily a retcon, but mediums do that, where like, hey, the villain died, and now we're gonna like rewrite stuff about him and make him more important when maybe he wasn't originally. Like, I don't know if that necessarily wasn't written like that. It's kind of hard to like figure that out just from playing it. But it could be interpreted as a retcon.
It's one of those things where it's like when the retcon is like so jarring that you're wondering what the hell happened. Like a friend of mine, my coworker was talking, going back to World of Warcraft here, when you had to infiltrate the lair of Deathwing and destroy Deathwing's eggs in Warcraft 2. Yeah,
and you fight Deathwing in
Cataclysm.
Classic and Cataclysm. Well, Nefarian is Death.
You don't fight Deathwing in Classic. That was Onyxia.
Isn't Nefarian Deathwing or no?
One of his sons.
Okay, I always get the Black Dragons confused.
It's Nefarian was in Blackwing or in Blackrock, and Neltharion is Deathwing's name.
That's it. There you go. That's exactly why.
That's honestly just because the dragon names in World of Warcraft are really easy to get mixed confused. Up. Yeah. So, but like, I can't remember the author's name now, but the author of One Piece.
Okay, I wouldn't know.
The manga has been going on for over a decade.
See, like even the anime is still going, right?
Well, it's close to 1,000 episodes.
Oh my god! It's like, why would you even want to start it? Like, I don't know how you would. Like, oh, I've seen episodes of One Piece because they're on Toonami and stuff.
You just turn it on, and you sit and you slog through it. You just have to do it if you want to watch the show. Ugh. But a friend of mine is a super fan of the show, and he's like, yeah, the author has given an interview. He's like, yeah, I'm about halfway done.
Oh, you planned it?
He did. Because everything my friend has told me is that there have been characters that have gone off screen, so to speak, hundreds of chapters ago and show back up in the future having had growth and development.
That's kind of like Arrow is a great example of characters who do that. So the character Roy Harper, who's like Green Arrow's sidekick, he's Arsenal. He like goes off. Like, I guess he like wanted to stop doing the show, so they wrote him off. Didn't kill him, but just he's gonna go. He's gone.
He's gonna go do a thing.
He's gonna go do a thing, and he comes back, and he's not dead. He came back last season for like a few episodes, and now he's gonna come back in this season, like as a main character. But like, if they killing off a really big comic book character like that would have maybe had some, a lot of fans would be pissed.
Lazarus Pit.
You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. And it exists in Arrow. That's the worst part about it.
Well, it's because it's a DC property. It's there.
Yeah.
The League of Shadows is in every DC property, basically.
For the most part. Yeah, League of Shadows exists in most of them. But yeah, yeah, you know, hey, if they killed him, they could have brought him back with the Lazarus Pit.
Now,
you actually just retconned something I didn't think about right on the spot. But you're right. You're 100% right. They could have killed him.
The only reason I remember the Lazarus Pits as much as I do is because I like Ra's al Ghul as a Batman villain, and I really enjoyed the Lazarus Pit mind trip in Arkham City. So it sticks.
But like, see, it's so easy. Some of the shit, it's just easy to retcon. Like it's not. It's just there.
We do have a bit of input from Deo in chat. Where do you put canon choices where there are multiple endings? If you consider that a form of retconning, since you can't continue the story, can't continue all of the story threads. Examples: Mass Effect or the Guild Wars 2, the Guild Wars 1 bonus missions. Like you could apparently kill Glint. I missed out on that.
I think it's up to the devs. They write it, and they usually write a canon ending.
That's so. The first time I ever experienced that was with the Sands of Time, or the Prince of Persia Sands of Time series.
Okay.
Second game. Well, second game, Warrior Within. The only way for you to get the true ending, like the canon ending, is if you found all 6 of the wells that increased your health. Now, the funny thing is, when I went for the true ending completion, I actually had to beat the game 3 times, because this is another game with time travel, and there was a point in time where you break from the timeline, and you stop something from happening, which that something is a wall getting broken, and if you path through the area where that is, after you've stopped that from happening, you can't get out of the area you're stuck in, so you have to restart the game. on my true ending playthrough, I had to restart.
No.
I had to restart twice. Now, that brings up another thing, and I don't necessarily consider that retconning, because
I don't either.
Like, for example, Bloodborne. There are technically 3 endings. I'm getting into spoiler territory for Bloodborne if nobody's played it yet.
I mean, it's, yeah, in a way. That game's hard to interpret anyway.
Basically, it's about the birth of Cthulhu Jesus. And
exactly! The baby alien.
So, there are 3 endings. Either, 1, you do the hunt, you talk to the old man in the wheelchair at the end, and he kills you. And that frees you from the dream, and you get the hell out.
Yeah.
It's like, just, I don't care about this city. You all can go screw yourselves. I'm gone. That's the choice there.
Yeah.
The second one is you can fight him. And I haven't done this one yet. If you fight him, you beat him. The old god that has been affecting this whole shit comes down and impregnates you.
You fight it first.
No, not if you only fight it.
You're talking about.
Yeah, okay. This is the middle of the 3 endings.
Middle one. Yeah, the middle
one. It impregnates you with its offspring, and you give birth to another old god. Doesn't matter what gender your character is. That's just It's eldritch beings from beyond the pale. That's where it is. And then if you are insightful enough, which you consume 3 out of 4 hidden items in the game.
Umbilical cords.
Yes. Old god umbilical cords.
It's weird.
You fight it, and then you take its place as an old god.
Yeah, and you're reborn as this, baby Cthulhu.
We have no idea if any of these are canon endings because there's no second Bloodborne. I'm going to say yet, hopefully, because Bloodborne 2 would make me so happy, but...
even going to Dark Souls 1, we'll talk about.
I haven't gotten to the end of any of those yet, so.
Okay, I'll try to be loose because the endings aren't anything grand. There are 3 endings for the first one, and one of them is just straight up beating the guy and hitting the bonfire, and that's the ending, linking the flame. That gets the.
So you prolong the inevitable death of the world.
Yes. And that is the canon ending. That's it. It's kind of implied that that's the canon ending, but in Dark Souls 3, that stuff kind of comes to light. No pun intended.
Womp womp.
But yeah, like they the other endings, one is you don't link the fire and you walk away. That's not canon. That's
right.
not how they wrote it.
Because that's you choosing to let the entire world die. So it's kind of hard to
end the
write.
cycle. Yeah,
it's kind of hard to write for total annihilation, or like Zlint says, you tell entropy to back up for 5 minutes. And there's no coming back from entropy.
And that's not, I wouldn't say that's retconning. That's called, hey, yo, you can play the game again and get a different ending. Yeah. It's a mechanic, essentially. I mean, hey, those games aren't heavily choice-based anyway. It's kind of like a good and a bad example of that. But I think when Dad was talking about Mass Effect, your canon, I mean, with 2 and 1, your canon ending can. Well, actually, no. With 2, you have to live.
The canon ending is everyone survives.
Is it? No one dies.
Well,
in the default, like no save imported.
I've never done the no save import for Mass Effect 3, but I like to think that Commander Shepard, a default Commander Shepard, would not be stupid enough to get a suicide mission because I managed to make everyone live through the end of Mass Effect 2 on my first playthrough. Well.
Same.
Because it's not terribly difficult.
No, you just gotta not be an asshole.
Well, sometimes, like, I actually did a Renegade playthrough. The asshole playthrough is actually kind of interesting in 2. But Mass Effect 3, a lot of the fan base considers the destroy option as the only canon ending.
Yeah. Are you basing that with the indoctrination theory in mind?
Personally, yes, because I think
personally, yes as well.
The indoctrination theory is much better writing.
Oh God, it's so good. Oh God,
but
what a great retcon that could have been.
The only problem with that is there's a point in time where a series like Mass Effect has to end because otherwise you need to retcon, because the entire Mass Effect trilogy is based off of choices. So it gets to a point where your branching paths just get so unwieldy, and then you get red shirt guy. I don't know how Mass Effect would implement a red shirt guy, but
it's a space game. They can,
For those of you who don't know, red shirt guy was a gentleman who at BlizzCon was asking questions of the narrative panel of World of Warcraft, and he was just like, "Hey, what about the Wildhammer dwarves?"
And he like stumped them.
Yeah, and they were just like
had no idea what to say. It's a funny video. Look it up.
Just look it up. Red shirt guy is and he actually got an NPC. He was the advisor to Falstad on the council that took over Ironforge.
I think you're right. Yeah, because he's the leader of the Wildhammers.
Yeah, he was the lead advisor to Falstad Wildhammer. Which
what a funny story.
That's fantastic. One of the devs to have a sense of humor enough to do that. So,
yeah.
But that's kind of one of the things that when I say a story has to end, is retcons usually happen on a basis of they need to change something old in order to continue the story forward.
Yeah,
like, and stealing the Dragon Soul back at the end of Cataclysm is literally a retcon. You are reaching back through time to steal an object that was destroyed.
Yeah, and that's retconning for games, at least, as a byproduct of sequels, making more money, writing more stories, so stuff is interesting. Like, it kind of feeds into another. I don't want to say
business encroaching on art.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, exactly. Because hey, if we ended the story, we're not gonna, if the game's over, we're not gonna make any more money. How are we gonna make more money? Let's write a new story. We might retcon some stuff, but that's okay. We're making a new product. We're making more money.
Excuse me.
With games, it at least goes that way. With TV shows, they're gonna, whether they're doing that storyline or not, they're doing something.
So, in a general sense, it's kind of difficult to really put a pin on. Another example I have that is not necessarily a retcon, and for those of you who want to watch Attack on Titan, I have some spoilers.
Is this for the third season?
No, this is the first season.
Okay, we're good.
First and second season, because I only just started recently watching it because my wife found some interesting information about 3 of the characters, and knowing this information completely changed like the first 20 episodes for me.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Three of
Yeah.
the characters are spies from another nation, and those three characters are the crazy titans that destroy the wall in the first place.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there are points in time where they make decisions, and like the three of them are standing together when they're trying to do basically a suicide mission, and one of them looks to the other and he's like, well, if one of us does it, we all have to do it. And I'm like, holy shit, they weren't talking about going on the suicide mission, they were talking about turning into titans and piecing out. So
Yeah.
I
That
don't
kind
consider
of stuff is cool to go back and like you get that revelation and you go back and you actually like you know what's happening, so it's what their objectives, their motivations are a little more clear. That's
it
all.
changes the way you a second viewing changes the way some of that stuff works. So if
Yeah.
it is, and that's when I talk about something being planned, a start and a finish, then it's not a retcon. I
Yeah.
would say that the retcon is specifically when you pull something out of the air to try and explain something.
Yeah. So Metal Gear Solid 4, which technically ends the timeline, the universe, even though 5 comes out and that's way before it. Metal Gear Solid 4 is riddled, and I mean riddled, with retcons of, oh, okay, so I don't know if you know, Metal Gear Solid 3 is the first game in the timeline.
Yes.
So a lot of information about Big Boss and other characters in Zero and big characters in the universe are revealed. And MGS4 kind of right at the end, and I mean the last 45 minutes of the game, all this information is thrown at you like, oh, okay.
Is it all in a cutscene?
Yes.
It's a 45-minute cutscene?
Oh, the end is like an hour and a half of cutscenes. It's the greatest thing ever. Kojima's an
Grand
artist.
movie. Hashtag
So-
just Kojima things.
Yeah, so like you find out that, which I didn't know until looking this up. So there's a character in Metal Gear Solid 1. He's the DARPA chief. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a black guy in a cell and he dies like right in the beginning. He is a character from Metal Gear Solid 3 whose name is Sigint. You find that out in Metal Gear Solid 4 that he is that person. So there are two different characters who are written for two different games and they happen to be the same person, which makes sense. It makes sense. Like it's not weird, but like that was not the original intention of the character.
Right.
He did not operate with Naked Snake during his first mission as his weapons guy. He was not that. He was originally the chief of DARPA. Like that's who he was. But they retconned him, and it's not I don't think it's a bad retcon. And there's, I'm fighting for, keep retcon, but there are good and bad. And I'm not here to debate what's good and what's bad, but sometimes there's bad ones and it's just like, oh, like facepalm, like really, come on.
Yeah.
But there's some in Metal Gear Solid that's just like, oh my God, really? Okay. You're going to reveal that about this guy? Okay, whatever, sure. But some of them are just like, okay, I see that like maybe that story thread wasn't completely talked upon and now you're kind of introducing this element, which could in fact make sense into the story. And that's literally Metal Gear Solid in a nutshell.
Well, I think one of those problems results from, starting as a Nintendo game.
Also,
And
Kojima
yes.
is really picky, and that's mostly him, not other people. Kojima's just sitting on his throne and like, no, let's do it this way. Okay, Mr. Kojima, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, his nano machines.
But
And MGS5 is a huge retcon game too. Retcon's a lot of stuff.
yeah, I think that's kind of it in a nutshell, is that there are retcons. So for the keep side, is retconning can be helpful in that
Yes.
it can improve a story. And me from the kick side is I'd rather see all of that stuff appear as planned and for a story to start and finish and be cohesive. So I'd rather not see a retcon. Now, it's one of those things I will admit I've seen good retcons and it didn't impact the previous story. In fact, it can work the same as when I talked about Attack on Titan, where it makes you look back at old stuff and say, oh, well then. So there are good retcons, yes, but in general, I very much prefer a complete story. And then that's my kick side. So it's have your major story beats planned out and then fill in the details. But a twist is kind of a big deal for that.
I don't know how we're doing on time. I wanted to bring up X-Men real quick because I think it's a good example of like bad retconning.
We're hitting wrap up, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be quick. So X-Men Days of Future Past literally rewrites the entire X-Men franchise, and that's kind of good and it's kind of bad. A little more bad because the newer ones aren't that good. Like they kind of like, hey, like let's just like do this again. Like if you watch the X-Men's back, I don't know if you have recently. X-Men 1 sucks. X2's pretty good. Last Stand's just like, oh my god. Origins we don't talk about. Like
X1 wasn't terrible. X2 I liked. X3 I hated, but that's mostly
when's the last time you saw X1?
It's been a while.
Sit down and rewatch that movie. It's bad.
It's not terrible. My problem with X3 was more I actually like the whole Phoenix arc, and that made me
butcher it.
Like they just kind of jumped straight from Phoenix to Dark Phoenix to everyone's dead, and that just kind of bugged me.
And it was made during a different time, and now most people kind of criticize all that. But yeah, they were like, hey, let's fresh slate this bad boy.
I have other thoughts on other movies that have been made, but we'll have to get the comic movie podcast that we've been talking about going for that first.
Yeah. This is a really like retconning itself. Like I won't go on too much longer, but like it's a big topic, and like you could talk about it for like so long because there's so many different instances where like the situation is not like the other. Like there's things are retconned for different reasons, and like and it's all over the place. There's probably not a lot of situations that are the same. It's like, why did they really do this? Okay, maybe it was to make a sequel. Maybe it was because of some other reason, like an actor quit or something, so they had to kill them off, and maybe he wanted to come back. I don't know. Like, yeah, like there's so many different situations.
But for the sake of time, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Vote to Kick, Episode 4 on RetConning. Thank you, Anthony, for joining me today. You can find him on Twitter at _the_gooch_.
There you go. That's it. You got it. Sorry.
That's okay. It's the internet screen names.
I have a funny story about the guy who actually has the gooch. I'd be like, hey, I'll buy this from you, and he actually like threw me a price. But it was expensive. I was like, ah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but he was trying to get me.
At least you didn't do like the early internet of XXX at the start and end.
No, my first Twitter handle was not this.
But he has been. I think. Do you stream or is it just?
So I stream my podcast. So if you guys want to go follow that
network.
Delco Nerd Network. If you want to follow us on Twitter, Delco Nerds. We're also on audio services on both Google Play and Apple. Just look up Delco Nerd Network and you will find us.
So, and I've been your host, Malthanis. You can find me on Twitter at MalthanisMMO and right here on twitch.tv/MadRealms, 2 A's in the Mad, every 7 p.m. Wednesday or 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesdays, for Vote to Kick, followed by Zero to Hero, our ranked PvP shenanigans on Guild Wars 2. You can also find this channel live on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for Talking Scrit, our weekly Guild Wars 2 news podcast. This week we are talking about A Star to Guide Us a bit, I think. I haven't even started the story, so I'm gonna.
I was gonna say I'm not even through it either.
I hear that people from the narrative team are feasting on tears. There are people who are crying at parts of the story, so I'm
okay, I heard about that.
I gotta do this, but. I hope you all have a fantastic night. For those of you on YouTube, I want to hear from you. I will have the link to the poll in the description. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a good conversation. I hope you all have a fantastic evening, and we will see you next time. Have a good night, everybody.